So where should we innovate? This is simply a pictorial to try to come up with at least a picture in your mind that it's the cloud integrated with all these devices. And devices can take on thousands of form factors. They're flexible, they're not. But within each of these devices and within the cloud, we have thousands, millions of interfaces that are both software related, hardware related, and firmware related. And it's the combination of all of these that actually creates value. So quickly, at the SoC level, this is perhaps the most commonly talked about place to innovate. I mean, this is, at least in part, a semiconductor crowd. It's a changing IP model. You heard Global Foundries talk about virtual IDM and how we handle IP. You know, a typical apps processor in a mobile phone will have 100 to 150 discrete pieces of IP, licensed, validated, tested, and integrated. That's a massive challenge, and I would submit that we don't have easy, accessible digital rights management ecosystems to make that easy. We're working on that problem, and we'll be talking about that over time. As more of the web comes on a single piece of silicon, we have to manage connecting all those blocks and multiple processor cores and GPU cores with a network. So network on chips then start to have the same problems and opportunities that Cisco talked about globally, which are how do you route, how do you secure transactions, how do you ensure a byte gets from one place to another, you know, safely and with high fidelity. So as we collapse the world of networking and compute on these chips, it raises lots and lots of opportunities. Again, opportunities for the IC community here in India. We've heard about 3D integration. You know, it's not just about the TSVs. I hear about TSVs all the time. While there are clearly manufacturing challenges of pillar wetting and adhesion, you know, think about the test and manageability issues. And to think about the value of inventory during this very complicated supply chain. You know, what if there was a way to turn on functionality as it was more relevant to the user of that functionality? What if we could price silicon in a more relevant way to the value it actually created? We don't buy art by the square foot. We don't buy, well, actually many people do buy silicon by the square millimeter now. And I would submit there are ways that we could work together to unlock that value in new and interesting ways. Devices are getting smarter and smarter. You know, it's, when we say ubiquitous connectivity, we still don't have ubiquitous connectivity. When I land at the airport and my BlackBerry takes 45 minutes to connect it, that's not there yet. When we go outside of Bangalore, we need ubiquitous connectivity to actually unlock this value. Certainly in Silicon Valley, a hot VC-funded area is immersive media. How can I explore not just multi-screen, but rich, pulled, and intuitive content across a number of different kinds of display devices? That's an extremely software-intensive and algorithmically intensive activity, and I would submit there's a lot of research that could be done in universities here to help that problem. Again, I talked about the idea of dynamic management of this functionality. We can talk more about that later. Let's not leave this slide till we talk just a little bit about security. And we're working on a lot of authentication, provisioning, and anti-counterfeiting technologies that are cost-effective, very easy to scale, and help ensure the old notion of trust but verify those packets, those bytes, that information that matters to you as an individual or as a corporation or as a nation actually get there safely. And finally, the notion of information lifecycle is no stranger to anyone that has spent time in the storage industry. As we amass these awesome amounts of data, when do we get rid of them? What's the economic trade-off between getting rid of them and storing them? A whole science there that is not capital intensive for research here as well. Big opportunity. So really at the end of the day, we've got to think ecosystemically. And what I really mean here is not necessarily the value chain ecosystem, but the ecosystem of where value is created and how hardware or software is invented and deployed to create value. Intellectual property is going to be key to this. You know, open platforms, so nations and companies can easily interoperate and interconnect, yet create individual value. intuitive sensing. We've heard fascinating talks today about healthcare. It's really all about the data. So to wrap up here, a picture's worth 1,000 words. While some people may see just a transparent display, what I see is the disappearance of hardware as an extension of our own individual utility, and a view into the cloud in a very useful way that simplifies our lives, makes us happier, and makes us healthier. So the value of future innovation is tremendous. I look forward to continuing to come here and collaborate with the infrastructure growth here in India. Many of the words you see here have been used many times during the day, so I hope that quick run through after a long and interesting set of sessions today has maybe helped pull it together for you and prompted some interesting conversation for later this evening. Thanks very much.
Well, it was indeed a very eye-opener and a great keynote address. Before we start the Technovation Awards, I would now request the President of IESA, Mr. P.V.G. Menon, to kindly come over and give a memento to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Martin Scott.